Welcome back to Movies TV Mad. Of course, you can follow me on Twitter at Movies TV Mad. I want to talk about Boba Fett, but mainly I want to talk about the Luke Skywalker CGI, the disrespect imparted on Boba Fett himself, and just discuss what a mess Disney Star Wars is at this point. You people pressured George Lucas off the franchise, his baby. He came up with the idea of Star Wars, and you said you shouldn't be doing what you're doing in the prequels. How dare you? How arrogant is that? But anyway, let's talk about Disney Star Wars. First of all, I don't understand why The Mandalorian is set after the Return of the Jedi and wasn't just set after, you know, the rise of Skywalker. Let's talk about it. I understand why, because they wanted to keep away from the sequel trilogy as much as possible because they made such a mess out of it. So they wanted you to forget. They wanted you to have love for Star Wars again. So let's get away from that and let's just focus after the Return of the Jedi. Basically saying the prequels are cool and the original trilogy are cool, but the sequel trilogy is crap. It's not good enough. We understand that and we just want to keep as far away from it as possible. The Mandalorian Season 1 and 2 are great Star Wars. I concede they're great Star Wars. I understand that. What I don't understand is I understand what they're doing. They wanted to fix Luke Skywalker. Rian Johnson decimated, destroyed and disrespected Luke Skywalker. We understand that. I don't think this is the way to rebuild Luke Skywalker. And I'm going to explain to you why. First of all, the first CGI character for Luke in the Season 2 finale of The Mandalorian, for me, looks terrible. We all ignored it because we were so excited. Wow, it's Luke at his peak, at his pomp, and he's fighting and he's brilliant and he's the Jedi Master we should have seen in The Force Awakens and the sequel trilogy. I get that, right? But ultimately, if you're going to carry on with Luke Skywalker, and I'm not sure that there's much imagination or ingenuity or imagination in persisting with Luke Skywalker after you fucked him up so deeply. And my personal opinion is do something new. Focus on a new planet. Focus on new Star Wars worlds. Focus on a new story. Or do something interesting like a live-action Clone Wars or something like that. I don't know. But ultimately, unless you're going to use present-day Mark Hamill as present-day Luke Skywalker, then you should be leaving it alone, in my opinion. Not building a CGI version of Mark Hamill, aka Luke Skywalker, because it doesn't look good. It seems very mechanic. And I know he's a Jedi now, so he's got to be a lot more robotic. It just doesn't work for me. And have I assumed right that's not even the voice of Mark Hamill? Am I right? Because obviously they're thinking, well, he's too old, he's croaky. But surely Mark Hamill, as a voice actor, could have done something special there as well. So as exciting as it is that Luke is training Grogu, and I mean, it's obvious, spoilers ahead, it's obvious what the decision Grogu's going to make because they had a bit of a problem. They dug themselves a hole. He goes off, he's going to train with Luke, right? But they need him back for The Mandalorian Season 3 because The Mandalorian Season 3 is going to be very Game of Thronesy, very Lord of the Rings, you know. There's going to be a battle now for the dark saber or whatever you call it, right? So people are going to try and take it off of Mando. That's where this story is going, and it's very good. Listen, I've got a lot of respect for Jon Favreau and is it Dave Filoni? You know, Dave Filoni is the man who was trained by George Lucas himself. He's a genius. Both those men are doing their best in a horrible situation. I don't feel this is the best way to evolve Star Wars. I don't think they started at the correct juncture after the Return of the Jedi. You know, if you've got a problem, right, it's like they don't ignore the prequels. Even though a lot of people hate the prequels, they admit the prequels exist. And I just think they should have maybe did a story where they continue just after the rise of Skywalker Or if you're that ashamed of the sequel trilogy, you have to find a way to destroy it. But they don't want to actually admit that they made a mistake publicly with the sequel trilogy, and that's where the problem exists here. And this is my issue. Now, for my second issue, if that's not messy enough as it is, we've got this whole Book of Boba Fett situation. Now, when I heard rumours a couple of years ago they were doing a Boba Fett movie, I said, no, don't do it. Boba Fett isn't a strong enough character to base an entire movie on. And Boba Fett is certainly not the kind of character you can base a whole series on. Now, some people don't agree with me about that, and they're blaming the writers. They're blaming Favreau for not doing a good enough job with that series. But ultimately, you know, Favreau and Filoni have found the problems that I underlined a long time ago, where they don't know what to do with this character because he's not interesting enough to hold an entire series. So they've gone, do you know what? We want to reunite Grogu and the Mandalorian before season 3 of the Mandalorian. We could save a lot of time here. Let's do it. People love the Mandalorian. People love Grogu. Let's throw Luke Skywalker in there. This is going to be kind of Disney Plus subscribers gold. Everyone's going to ignore the fact that we've 1 minute we're focusing on Boba, then we're focusing on Luke Skywalker, Grogu, the Mandalorian. The first reappearance of Mando it's his episode. It's like you're watching the Mandalorian. Now, I've seen a lot of TV shows that have done departure episodes and not focused on the central character. We've seen it in New Doctor Who as well. That's all right for one episode, but you can't keep on doing it. Now, Boba Fett has become a substitute on his own show, because the truth of the matter is, this is a character that looks great in a movie, in a story about somebody else, and he's standing there with his helmet and you can give him a little bit of a character arc, like they did in season 2 of The Mandalorian, and that worked, and the actor's doing a great job. The actor isn't the issue here. The cast in the show are not the issue. Creatively, it falls down. Now, there's been a very controversial element about Boba Fett, that he barely wears his helmet, and this has been an issue. This was an issue discussed with The Mandalorian. Now, I understand why they're taking the helmet off, because it's very difficult to do character work when you've got the helmet on. What people are saying to me, but what about the Batman? That, you know, Matt Reeves has discussed having the mask on and being able to do character work because it's a mask. We're talking about a helmet. It's very, very different. And I can understand the issue of not wanting to keep that mask on. Now, I think with The Mandalorian, they've done a very good job of developing that character, and I think the actor has done a very good job at that. When you've got a character like Boba, people want to see him as Boba Fett in the costume, in the armor, in the helmet, and they don't want to see it off. So these are the problems you give yourself. The truth of the matter is, basically sidelining Boba Fett is embarrassing, it's creatively bankrupt as far as I'm concerned, and it's a mistake. It doesn't matter what you bring in its place. It doesn't matter how awesome and epic Luke is, you know, Grogu is, Mando is, it doesn't matter. You can't do it. It's disrespectful to the people who love Boba Fett, and there lies the problem. Disney Star Wars, again, making mistake after mistake, and who knows what they're doing with Feig's film, and you know, the other film they're doing as well from the for Ragnarok director as well, Taika Waititi. I think Star Wars is a franchise without a pilot. It's obvious that Kevin Feige is secretly now running Star Wars. That's why his good friend Jon Favreau is involved in Disney Plus Star Wars. It's all very obvious, and they just don't want to admit that Kevin Feige not only is the president of Marvel Studios, he's now the unofficial president of Lucasfilm. It's messy, it's okay. Obviously, Disney Plus Star Wars is very good in terms of what they've done with Mando, not so good in what they've done with the Book of Boba. I don't agree with the complaints about the Book of Boba looking like it's shot on a stage and things like that. I think they've done production. The production values are very good. In terms of what they've done with the show itself, It simply doesn't work. I found the first few episodes really taxing, very boring, and I even fell asleep a couple of times. Star Wars needs George Lucas, and I know George Lucas is very old now and probably doesn't want to be involved, but I think if you allow Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau to do whatever they want, and I think it will be in better hands. I'm not saying The Mandalorian isn't a great show. I think you need to move on from certain elements of Star Wars, start again and do something original. And if they focus on more originality and don't make dumb decisions like making Boba Fett a central character, then they will be a lot more successful. But I do prefer Disney Star Wars with the leadership of Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni rather than without them. But they are starting to make a few mistakes with the Disney Plus Star Wars as well. This has been Movies TV Mad. I'm Mick, your host with the most. Just ask your girlfriends and your wives. Like, share, comment, subscribe, hit the notification bell so you never miss this perfection. And I'll see you again in the next video. Until then, goodbye, au revoir, auf Wiedersehen.